nothing advantageous about it at all.
At all. But I think you're right. I think tech is something that should be.
We talked about this on the show, I don't know, a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's something that needs to be addressed, I believe. And let's have some input from you guys out there listening on the Crocker's call-in line.
Yep, 503-862-3478, or you can hit us on the Swears Trucking chat line. There's a lot of guys that have a voice on that kind of stuff.
I'd like to hear some opinions from other people. It doesn't affect me one way or the other, and I don't know. I don't know how to say this, and I just feel it's something that's necessary.
Sure.
It's like you were talking about earlier, things you're used to, like the lineups. You get used to a thing one way, and you expect
becomes a habit.
It becomes a habit, and you expect to see it.
Sure.
And I guess that's where my position is on it, and it's none of my business really, but it's just the way I feel. What's that?
The Swears Trucking chat line is, you never know what's going to happen on there. And with guys like Larry Baker and Chris Frisbee and Gray Ferrando.
Sorry, Gray. I meant Tony.
Well, and Gray says, talking about tech and talking about, his cars, he says he's got onboard fire systems for both of their cars this week. Has 2 auto heads and a third manual one.
Nice.
So, I think, and we've talked about that. We've voiced our opinions on that. I think that is something that should be mandatory on every top flight race car. Modifieds, late models. I think even the super sports, when you get some real speed, talking about them.
Yeah, it's I don't know what that cost. I don't know what the cost is.
They're not. The systems used to be really expensive. Now they're.
What do they use in them now?
There's so many different types of chemicals.
I'm trying to think of the chemical we used on
Halon.
Halon, right? Yeah. That's what we used on late models of Portland Speedway with Herschel McGriff and Rod Schultz and those guys. Eric Sayre. We all. I think that was mandatory. I know we had it on all of our cars, but it was. And fortunately, we never had to use it. But we saw a fire in a car last week, coming off a turn in the apex of 1 and 2. And dive into the dirt and put the fire out on that car. What car was that? Do you recall?
Who was that? They hit the dirt. They intentionally went
dirt,
through the dirt.
Yeah, the dirt.
But that was
fast
a smart
thinking
move.
on the driver there to dive it into the dirt and let the dirt put out the fire.
Well, here's again, not saying any names. Here's someone hitting us up on the Moxie message feature on our Facebook page. Says, we need stricter tech. I know there have been some illegal funny business with mod motors and fire suits. So, and that's something I'd like to touch base on.
I got the same text.
Did you get that?
Yeah.
So you're on the Moxie page.
Yeah.
Chris Mott just hit us up. Says, best thing he did this offseason, containment seat, Hans, new fire suit, new helmet. Cost doesn't matter. It's your life. Exactly.
Good point.
That is exactly right, Chris, that you cannot put a value on your life. And every time you get in that race car, you're risking it.
Yep.
You're risking it in every possible way, being in that car, from, like you said, here, he says right here, from the helmet to the shoes you're wearing to the underwear you're wearing, the fire suit, everything. We're going to talk about that.
Great, but they're not God. They're not going to save you.
That's
from
right.
every
Those guys,
circumstance.
as good as they are, they can only do so much.
That's
and
right.
A great fire suit only gives you about 20 seconds of protection.
Right.
Right. That's not a lot of time when you're talking about that kind of heat. You better do what you can to protect yourself. And
depending on what kind of fuel you might be running, depending on, is going to determine the temperature of that fire.
Absolutely.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. And while we're on this subject, we're getting near the end of the show. We've got 40 minutes left. I would love for Joel to call in because he's part of the Extreme Fire Safety Crew.
Yeah.
And we had a conversation with him earlier today on the phone while he's up in Seattle, and he wanted to address a couple of things that he has seen that caused some concern for him. And I think it'd be a great avenue for him to get on the show here and voice his opinion on that, because
I'm sure he's had conversations with Doug that directly pertain to what he wants to talk about.
Guarantee you that he has,
from the fire and safety team aspect of it all.
I can't imagine. I seriously can't imagine some of the stuff those guys see out there.
Yeah.
We're gonna get Joel on the show here. He's up in Seattle right now on the road. And Joel, can you hear me, buddy?
I can hear you, Mr. Penfold.
Right on. How's it going on the road?
Mr. Penfold.
What?
How's life on the road?
I hate it.
Well, it was too
I'll
much.
tell you what, when you're going eight wide on asphalt at 10 miles an hour, it is no fun at all. I'll be up front with anybody about that. Let's do 6 wide on the dirt all day long, 8 wide on the asphalt. No thanks.
Yeah, I hear you. And the big, you just don't like big cities.
No. It's something about the boots I wear, and I mean, we constantly talk about my fashion statements all the time. But,
you don't make a fashion statement. You don't have any sense of fashion at all, Joel.
Oh, come on now, Corey.
No, I'm jealous. You always show up looking pretty good.
He always shows up looking purty.
He does.
He's purty.
Poor Joel. We love you, buddy. We love you.
300 miles away, and I'm taking shots from the studio.
I love it. But honestly, it's all in good fun. We love you. And hey, listen, we had a conversation today, and I want you to talk about this on the show because I think it's important. You're on the Extreme Fire and Safety crew. Everybody knows that. We've talked about it.
Yes, sir.
Some of the things that, and we even talked about this on race night, the little that we got to communicate, but some of the stuff we're seeing some of these race drivers do, it boggles my mind, given some of the stuff we've seen the last couple of years with fire, with
yes.
accidents in race cars. I want you to address some of that, and I want you to speak your mind on it because you're part of that crew that is saving these guys in situations where they need your help. I'm going to turn you loose, bud.
Exactly.
Ultimately, they basically need to help you help them.
Absolutely.
Exactly, and that's the biggest thing is, we're fortunate at Willamette Speedway. We have Extreme Fire and Rescue. Doug Van Zandt and his entire crew with Guy Miller and Skippy Trask and Josh Harris and Tony Hadid and every other member of Extreme. We all play a part in the safety of the racers. Typically on race nights, we have 2 fire-capable or firefighting apparatus engines, if you'll call them that, inside the track on the infield. One station 3 and 4, one station 1 and 2. We also have light suppression capabilities with the dirt truck, which is our slow response unit, and as well as on our tow trucks. We all carry fire extinguishers, and we use a special chemical out there. We don't use a dry cam or a halon-based extinguishing agent. We use a foam agent, which is actually going to be better for the drivers, better for the cars themselves, because the thing about the extinguishing agent we use is that it's not corrosive. It doesn't actually starve the fire of oxygen. What it does is it actually lays a blanket of foam out, suppressing that fire, but it doesn't get up in the air like with a dry cam or a halon and also suffocate the driver.
Oh, that's interesting.
Halon will do that.
I just heard you guys talking about onboard fire suppression systems. With dry cam and halon, when you light that off, and we saw what happened with dry cam this weekend with the fire on the street stock. It gets everywhere. It goes everywhere. That stuff is actually very corrosive to certain components in the motor. So you have to essentially wash your entire motor down to get all that dry cam extinguishing agent out of it. Otherwise, you'll have corrosive after effects of it and diminish the life of your racing equipment.
And it's certainly something you don't want to breathe in.
Exactly. And I got a taste of that this weekend with that fire, and I'll be honest with you, I was almost puking in the pits because of what it does. I mean, we heard last year when Kenny Walls called in on the safety show that Corey did, we heard about him. He had dry chem lit off while he was on him when he was in a fire. That is a side effect of dry chem. Now, when racers, when you're listening to this, I'm not saying the dry chem is bad. If that's what you've got, that's better than nothing. But just be aware that when you do set off a dry chem extinguisher, you are going to have these other effects. I know Sunset is on the same foam system that we are on at Willamette Speedway. I believe Cotage Grove is still on dry chem, if I remember correctly. Okay. So it's also good for drivers. If you're going to a new track, meet with the fire and safety guys. Take a look and see what they've got going on there so you know how much time you have to react. Either way, if there's a fire, you should be exiting your race car as safely and as quickly as possible. Even if it's small fires can turn into big fires very easily. We're running around with 22 gallons of highly combustible, or even more, highly combustible liquid, as well as oil systems on there. Any fire is a bad fire in a race car.
Absolutely. You know, the other thing that I thought was important that you and I talked about, which just I still can't believe we have drivers doing it in the year 2017. We're still seeing drivers racing cars wearing flannel shirts and jeans.
Yes, and that is one thing that, I have seen. I'm not the tech official, so I'm not going to do anything about it. It's one thing that I do. I take a mental note of it of, okay, this driver's going out in this type of attire.
So he's got about 2 seconds in the case of a fire.
If he's lucky.
Change how we respond to the fire.
Right.
If there's an incident on track, we have to change our response. And we saw it this weekend. We were absolutely slammed at one point during the street stock race.
Yes, you were.
It was actually right when we had that large fire in the pits on that one street stock. It was myself responding from turn 3 and 4, and luckily Doug Van Zant was in the pits right on the entrance when we got a report of the fire. So I had to come. We basically both had to come from turns 3 and 4, and that delayed our response to that fire because we had other issues going on at the racetrack that Extreme Fire and Rescue was dealing with.
Yes.
So drivers, help us help you. Make sure you're wearing a fire suit. If you can, make sure it's the best fire suit out there. I've seen 3 layers, and I've seen 4 layers out there. The extra undergarments, they're flame retardant. They can add a couple extra seconds. I mean, it doesn't take long.
No, it doesn't. And
you cannot put a price on your safety. Race cars can be replaced. Engines can be replaced. Our drivers are the talent behind the wheel, and those people cannot be replaced.
You can't replace life. And you could be my best friend or somebody I don't know. And if I saw you, I'll tell you how much of a fool you are to get into a race car with a flannel shirt and jeans and tennis shoes. I mean, that's absolutely, it's completely stupid.
Yep, I agree.
There is no excuse for it. And I'll tell you, if I owned a racetrack, let's just, hypothetically, I owned a racetrack and you showed up.
You want to bet you own Willamette.
No, listen. Listen. I'm not kidding you. If you go up at a racetrack that I own in a flannel and jeans and think you're going to race, pack it up and roll. You're not racing.
Well, your tech guy's probably going to catch that.
Absolutely.
And not give a sticker.
It would not be allowed, period.
Yeah.
Absolutely not be allowed.
It shouldn't be.
I agree with you, Corey, 100%. It is in Willamette's rules. If on every single class, I double-checked that this weekend, fire suits 1-piece or 2-piece are required for every class.
Right.
Now, the other thing that's required is a Snell-rated helmet. Mm-hmm. The difference between an M-rated helmet and a Snell-rated helmet is the fire retardant capability.
Right.
M-rated helmets like you would use for riding a motorcycle, a dirt bike, those do not have fire retardant capabilities. The Snell-rated ones do.
Oh, that's interesting. Yes. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's true.
This is part. This is actually Corey and Warren. Corey and I talked about this extensively a couple days ago. Warren and Corey and I sat down. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. It's something that we all need to look at, and
absolutely,
help us help you. I mean, Corey wants to be able to announce your guys' next victory. Make sure you make it there.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we have seen, and the perfect example. I mean, really, if you want to talk about dirt track racing, the perfect example of what a good fire suit will do. Look at Harley White, the young lady that was running the sprint car back east. It was her first race. Her first race, she gets in a major wreck, and the entire car goes up. Thank God she had the proper equipment on, because she's lucky to be alive with the proper equipment. I mean, we've seen the pictures of her back, the scars, the burns.
Think of what that would have been if she had a flannel shirt and Levi's on.
She'd be dead.
Yeah, probably.
She would be dead right now.
And that's the thing, too, is that if you look at that fire, that also is, that is one video I have watched over and over again. Not because of what happened and I like grotesque things, but studying it, learning from it, so that I can be better when I'm out there at the track. That's one thing I do, is I watch a lot of videos like that to gauge my response, to help myself, to kind of do a pre-race,
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And one thing about a sprint car fire that some people don't realize is that sprint cars run methanol. They're not running the high octane fuels, the late models, or the modifieds, or any